We'll continue with more examples of evaluating a function. So if we look at example 2, and sorry that's a typo, we're finding g of -4. So we find the function named g, and we're going to plug in -4 wherever there was an x. So g of -4 is equal to the square root of 6 minus 2, and we're going to plug in -4 here. So now we work under this radical. -2 times -4 makes that 6 plus 8, which gives us the square root of 14. And if Alex asks for the exact answer, this is what you would enter. If they ask for the approximate answer, you can enter that in your calculator and get the approximate decimal. Example 2 wants us to switch functions. So now we're looking at the function f. So we're going to look at the function that has the name f, and wherever there's an x, we're going to plug in -2. So we have the absolute value of -3 plus 2/3 times -2, and then we're going to close the absolute value. Now you can do this in your calculator. You use the division key for a fraction, so you can do 2 divided by 3 times -2. But just to know what it's doing in the calculator, I'm going to do it by hand. So we have the absolute value of -3, and then when you're multiplying fractions, we can think of -2 as -2 over 1, and you're going to do top times top and bottom times bottom. So plus 2 times -2 is -4, and 3 times 1 is 3. So now, if you add these, since they're both negative, it would be -3 and 4/3. But that's a mixed number with an improper fraction, so we need to clean this up a little bit. So we're going to change this to improper. -3 times 3 is -9. And we just do 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 4 is 13. So it's -13 over 3. But we haven't taken the absolute value yet, so we continue to carry those down. And so finally, the absolute value of -13/3 is +13/3. And that's our answer. Another way to think about this is my alternate method, is think of -3. You can find a common denominator. So -3 over 1. The common denominator between 1 and 3 would be 3. And then 1 times 3 is 3. So this is going to be -3 times 3, which is -9. So -9/3 is equivalent to -3. And this would be -4/3 because we have the same denominator, so we would keep the same numerator. And now you get -13/3 as well. So either way you want to think it through it is fine with me, or you can do it on the calculator. But I think it's important for us to remember how to do this by hand so that all the work we're doing makes sense to us. All right, and finally we go to function h. Function h is yet another function. This is called a rational function because it contains a fraction. All right, so we're going to plug in an expression this time. So we have -2 over 3 times x minus 1 squared minus 2 times x minus 1. So notice, wherever there was an x, I'm plugging in x minus 1. All right, so this is going to take some algebraic work. Again, we're going to square a binomial. So we're going to have -2. The top is going to stay the same. Remember that we have to do this part before we can multiply by 3. So I'm going to bring the 3 down, and x minus 1 times x minus 1 is going to give me x squared. That's first times first. Outside times outside is negative 1x. Inside times inside is another negative 1x. And then last times last would be positive 1. That's negative 1 times negative 1. So I'm going to bring this over and make it x squared minus 2x this time plus 1. And then we have our minus 2 times x minus 1. All right, so now we have negative 2 again in the top. And in the bottom, I'm going to distribute the 3 to the first set of parentheses. And I'm going to distribute negative 2 to the second set. So I'll have 3x squared minus 6x plus 3. That's the first part. And then minus 2x, but then plus 2. Sorry. Because negative 2 times negative 1 will give you a positive 2. So now if I combine like terms in the denominator, that's going to give me negative 2 still in the numerator. And then in the denominator, I have 3x squared minus 8x, and that comes from negative 6x minus 2x, and then plus 5, which is positive 3 plus 2. And that's all you can do, and that is your answer.